The big push against exclusives is interesting at this point. Now that Microsoft has kind of said, hey, look, we're not going to be doing exclusives anymore. We're going to be releasing our games multi-platform. We're starting to see a lot of stuff from Sony that shows that they're also going to be doing multi-platform stuff. Maybe not all the way, the whole slate like Xbox, but still more multi-platform stuff like we've already seen from them branching out to PC. We've already seen some of the smaller games come over to Nintendo Switch. And we also see a big game like Helldivers 2 coming over to the Xbox platform. So that leaves Nintendo in a very interesting situation where they're essentially the last of the exclusive based systems, to where you know good and well that all of their main big titles are not going to be on other platforms. Now, yes, they'll branch out a little bit and do some specific mobile games built specifically for mobile, but they haven't brought over, like, let's just say Super Mario over to Xbox or to PlayStation or anything like that. They've done some other stuff in the past, Nvidia Shield, some things in China, IQ Player, stuff like that, but nothing essentially to what we've seen so far with Xbox and with PlayStation and what they're doing in today's day with the modern systems. And that leaves a very interesting question. Exactly what is going to be the future when it comes to Nintendo and the exclusive based type of systems? And I think that if you look at the landscape right now, things are changing so fast in the gaming industry. You have it to where really essentially only the Nintendo Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5 are the only dedicated consoles that are even selling, which makes it even crazier to me that some people are trying to want or plot the downfall of the Nintendo Switch 2. That would leave only PlayStation as the only system that is actually selling anything when it comes to consoles. Portable PCs aren't selling anything at all. And then you look at the Xbox Series, which isn't selling either. So really, it's just PlayStation 5 when it comes down to it. So I think that we have to have some type of balance. We have to have some type of competition when it comes to the platforms out there. So you can criticize, you can critique, but I mean, I don't want things to fail. I want all the systems to do well. I think it would be awesome, actually, if Microsoft sold more. Obviously, PlayStation keeps selling like they're selling. And of course, Nintendo Switch 2 can sell as well. Then we have healthy competition when it comes down to it. But with the erosion of when it comes to exclusives overall, obviously Microsoft's not going to be there. And you look at what the PlayStation is doing right now at this point, to where I still feel that they believe that exclusives are a thing. But there was a recent article where Sony talked about what they plan on doing, and that has sent a lot of people into a tizzy overall online. And essentially, here is what Senior Vice President Sarahiko Hawakawa had to say recently about them shifting some different type of metrics and what they're doing overall for their business. Quote, shout outs to Genki on this one. In the gaming business, we are moving away from a hardware-centric business model more to a platform business that expands the community and increases engagement. And a lot of people took that as, hey, they want to increase engagement. Well, how do you increase engagement? Well, you do more stuff on PC. You do more stuff on other platforms where you can reach outside of your typical base. Now, Sony sold around 80 million systems, 80.3 million shipped overall, but in homes, they've got 70 million plus in the homes of consumers out there. So they have plenty of people to reach. But if you truly want to reach more people, obviously having stuff like Xbox with Helldivers, you can get another 20 million people access to your IP. PC, they still have been doing that, and maybe Nintendo Switch 2 stuff in the future. So I think that's where Sony is going at this point. They're kind of going towards that, and they're going to be selective on what they do. So really, at this point, all we have is just the Nintendo Switch 2 as the only system that's truly going to have all of their games exclusive. And some people have argued that that's good or bad, but for me, I look at it this way, man. I like competition. I like systems having unique propositions when it comes to why you want to buy that system, unique reasons to pick that up. And exclusives have always facilitated that. Now, I know that there's a huge push against that overall, but I think that there's a push against that because there are certain people that obviously like Xbox, where they lost a lot of their exclusives. And I think that before that, people always thought the exclusives were cool. Whatever system you thought was fun, or even if you bought multiple systems, you bought that for that game, or you bought that for whatever they were offering. And yes, that's a lot more money in today's day. You're looking at it, but I still feel that exclusives offer something unique, and I think that they drive competition, and I've always been a fan of that. That's just the era that I grew up in. And I know, once again, times change. A lot of you guys might feel differently, but that's just the era that I grew up in, and I always felt that exclusives help with that. They help with the metaphorical console wars and all of that, and I'm not meaning console wars in terms of us fighting against each other, because I'm a multi-platform gamer. I have PlayStation 5, I have Xbox Series X, I've got a gaming PC, I've got obviously Nintendo Switch 2, so I have multiple platforms, and I have pretty much all of the previous platforms from Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. So I've got lots of stuff. I've been gaming for decades now at this point. So for me, I don't want to necessarily fight when it comes to that, but I want them to fight when it comes to the dollar, fight when it comes to bringing people to your platform, make the best type of content that you can, built specifically for that platform. So that's how I've always looked at it. Now, once again, things might change in the future. Things always change when it comes to the gaming industry. When I started playing games in the 80s, it's not very much the same as it is right now at this point. You know, arcade gaming was so much bigger. There was other things. Obviously, there wasn't online play like we have it now at this point. It was a very different industry. But to me, I feel that Nintendo, at least, let's just say this, them having an exclusive-based system is key and vital to their business structure. And I think that's the difference here when it comes to Microsoft and Sony. To Nintendo's specific business structure, it's very unique, and it's key for them to continue having those exclusives to facilitate people buying the system. Remember, Nintendo does not have the type of third-party support that Microsoft and Sony has guaranteed pretty much for so many different games. And with Sony, they essentially have everything. If you look at it, they have everything overall, and even with everything, they still can't still up to the level of what we see with the Nintendo Switch 1 or the PlayStation 2. They're not even able to get to that level despite having everything overall. So I think that's where Sony is looking at this and saying, hey, we can't necessarily do it when it comes to having to optimize and make as much money as possible. But I think that with Nintendo, because they don't necessarily go all in when it comes to graphics, and they maybe run things a bit differently. They obviously have less employees. Their business structure is completely different and based around these unique individualized games that are probably less to develop than other places. I think that Nintendo has to have that type of business model going forward, whereas Microsoft and Sony can make some other changes overall. And I think in some cases with Microsoft, they just kind of had to, because they weren't able to sell the type of systems that Sony and that Nintendo have been able to sell. But I look at it as this, man. I think that going forward, we're going to see PlayStation still have some exclusives here and there, but we'll see what they do. But I think that it's vital for Nintendo, at least when it comes to exclusives, to keep that going. Otherwise, I'm not sure how many people would buy this system overall. And I think that it might kind of crush what they're trying to accomplish. But we'll see what happens in the future. I'm not saying that Nintendo will never ever release a game on Xbox or PlayStation or PC. They might. I mean, we could see something from them on other platforms. We could see Super Mario Sunshine show up on the PC officially in some way, shape, or form in the future. There could be some other things where they have games directly built into specific TVs overall to extend their reach and have a deal set up there. I think that might actually be the future when it comes down to it. You buy a new TV, it has games built in specifically for that, and you can pick from a bunch of them and download other ones straight to your TV. That could be something that we see in the future. And then, of course, you can transfer that to your game system and other stuff like that. So I think that's something that, once again, we could see in the future. But for right now, Nintendo's doing their thing, and they're essentially the last true exclusive based system at this point, and we'll see how long that lasts. But what do you guys think overall when it comes to what I had to say here with this? Let me know in the comment section. But we are going to move on to some hope, for some people at least, when it comes to GTA 6 on the Nintendo Switch 2. Mr. Strauss Zelnick, he is the CEO of Take-Two, and he says that they feel really good about the Switch 2. He keeps on saying the same thing. It's almost like it's a prepared statement or something like that. We feel really good about the Nintendo Switch 2. All right, move on. We need Xbox and PlayStation. No, I'm just joking with that. But here's what he had to say recently in an interview. Shout outs to Stealth. He put this up there. He says, quote, "Positive. We feel pretty good about it. Switch 2. We are bringing out a number of titles for Switch 2. We are committed to the platform, and so far, so good." So yeah, they've got Civilization. They've got a couple other games that they're bringing. Borderlands 4 is coming on October 3rd as well. So I think that really what he's trying to say here is, look, we got some titles, go out there, buy it, we'll see how it does, then we'll go from there. Because Take-Two has never been a massive supporter of Nintendo when it comes to bringing their biggest and best GTA right then and there. However, with the Nintendo Switch 1, things kind of turned a lot better for them compared to the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS. There were a multitude of titles from Take-Two when it comes down to it, and it was great. It was good to see GTA, it was good to see other titles come over LA Noire, it was good to see a bunch of other titles that we didn't see on Wii U, that we didn't see them bring out anything for the Nintendo 3DS, and we got that on the Nintendo Switch 1. So I'm hoping that that continues with the Nintendo Switch 2, and I'm hoping that at some point, maybe GTA 4, GTA 5, GTA 6 can make their way over to the platform. A lot of people were wondering why a game like GTA 4 or GTA 5 never came over to the Nintendo Switch 1, considering those games were Xbox 360 and PS3 games, and definitely could have ran on the system, considering the Nintendo Switch 1 is absolutely stronger than those systems. So that never happened. So maybe we see at least some of those GTA games on the Nintendo Switch 2. And if you look at it, GTA, the trilogy, did pretty well from what I understand on the Nintendo Switch 1. So we'll see what happens going forward in the future with Strauss Zelnick, who has one of the coolest names in the business, and Take-Two. So let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section. But now we are going to move on to the next bit of information, and that is the first in-game look at the, I would say, more like new and improved look at Armed Fantasia. Now, this is the spiritual successor to Wild Arms. Now, the game is still in development. Now, Genki said it's the first look, but it's not necessarily the first look. They had another battle scene a couple of years ago. I think I covered this game, but now it looks considerably better than what they had. Far more effects, better UI, better graphics, better details, better everything. So the game is looking really nice so far, and Wild Arms, old school PS1, PS2 classic franchise out there. It's one of those series that you had to have grown up back then or watched the retrospective. Most people don't talk about Wild Arms anymore. It was a multi-game franchise back then, so we'll see what happens with this game. I'm looking forward to playing it, and it looks like we have a nice update here. It looks really good. I like the animations. I like what they're doing so far with this, so I'm looking forward to hopefully this game having enough funds and having enough, I would say, the developers are motivated enough to continue going here so we can see exactly what this is about. They've got a lot of battle stuff going, but the game is moving along kind of slowly, but this is a nice update overall. Now, if you guys know that this was a joint Kickstarter type of thing. It was a spiritual successor to Wild Arms, in addition to a spiritual successor to Shadow Hearts, which was called Penny Blood, and unfortunately Penny Blood is not doing so well. Genki also notes here the development of Penny Blood has been halted due to running out of funds, not being able to find a publisher, and other legal issues. Armed Fantasia does seem to be continuing with development, although the regular updates have slowed down. So I'm hoping, once again, this does follow through here, because this looks like a really cool turn-based RPG, and I want to see these independent developers bring back these classic games. People have been wanting a Wild Arms game for so long, and that series is just done. People have been wanting Shadow Hearts to come back in some type of way, and it looks like Penny Blood is going to be done. So I'm hoping that this can continue and we can see some good stuff from Armed Fantasia going forward. But what do you guys think overall when it comes to Armed Fantasia and this new gameplay battle footage? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the final topic. And shout out to my man Stealth. He put out a top 100 list of bestsellers on the Nintendo Switch 2. And the interesting thing with this is that you can see that Nintendo is the king of evergreen, because a lot of the previous Nintendo Switch 1 games are still selling, and that's how Nintendo consistently kind of packs in those sales, to where you saw it at some point where you saw it, maybe it was in the top 10, or they said, hey, look, it sold this much in the quarter or this much overall, but then they stopped reporting on it. But you can still see right here, based off of this list, that Nintendo's first party games keep selling. Overall, there's a top 100 list, and there are so many Nintendo first-party titles. If you just scan through it, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Nintendo Switch Sports, Mario Golf, Super Rush, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Pokemon Violet, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Pokemon Scarlet, Super Mario 3D World, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Clubhouse Games, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Splatoon, Kirby, Super Mario Maker, Pokemon Shining Pearl, Mario Kart 8 plus the DLC, Paper Mario, Metroid Prime Remastered, Pikmin 4, Big Brain Academy. There are just so many titles that they have, so many games that continue selling overall. So that's why they want to keep the Nintendo Switch 1 going, because people are still buying games on there, and the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 are going to live pretty much coinciding together. And as more people kind of get acclimated to the Nintendo Switch 2 being available and being in stores, they're going to gradually move over from Switch 1 to Switch 2, and which is why I think it was super key looking at this big old list of Switch 1 games that there was backwards compatibility, because when all of these people finally move over from Switch 1 to Switch 2, they can easily transfer over all of these games, or if you're on Switch 2, you can easily just buy any of these games as well, which I do think that there are probably a number of Switch 2 users that are also buying Switch 1 games, which it does show up on the Switch 1 charts, because they have it separate. They have Switch 2 charts, then they have Switch 1 charts. So that's just awesome, and it's a unified type of thing, which was so vital, in my opinion, to making sure that the Nintendo Switch 2 got off to a good start and had a chance to sell well, was having that backwards compatibility, because this list is incredible. It's an instant list of back catalog games that you can play that are still super fun to play overall, and with many of these games will run better on the Nintendo Switch 2. So what do you guys think about all of this when it comes to everything that we talked about with the Nintendo Switch 2 news and more? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.